One of the most frustrating moments of Mario Party comes from those mini-games where you put all of that time and effort into winning, but at the very end of the game end up in a draw where nobody wins any coins. Bumper Balls strangely doesn't feel like one of those instances though. Yeah, it's a bummer when you don't win, but I always come out of Bumper Balls matches feeling content with my performance and the fact that anyone else won't win any coins either. It's one of those games where at the end of the hard-fought battle, you still have enough honor to congratulate your opponent for the tough fight, as you conspire to defeat them in another game in the future. Nothing wrong with a little healthy competition, am I right? Number 9, Shy Guy Says. Ah, the Simon Says of the open seas. Raise the correct flag that Shy Guy tells you to raise and continue the game, or raise the wrong one to be cut out in the open waters. It's a very simple concept, but it can result in some very heated matches, especially the longer the game goes on. Shy Guy eventually gets faster, and the response time you have gets shorter, which means you have to be very exact and very precise if you want to win those 10 coins at the end. A focused mind will usually net you the victory, but keeping that focused mind is the true challenge. Number 8, Slot Car Derby. I feel like this might be the most controversial game in the top 10 list, at least as far as the favorites go, but I've always had a soft spot for Slot Car Derby. I think the fact that the slot car gets tripped up on those sharp turns is what turns a lot of people off at first, and given that can be a huge moment of frustration for people, but when you've played the game for as long as I have, the movement starts to become and feel all the more natural to you. If you're having trouble with this game, just give it some practice a few times. Eventually you'll get the hang of the controls and it'll feel like a very, very natural game to you.
You see, guys, the trick to Slot Car Derby is actually to have a very smooth hand. You know, we gotta go nice and easy around those turns. It's the way you gotta play this minigame. You gotta go nice, smooth, have really, really soft and smooth motions. Don't go too fast. Don't go too fast. Oh, yeah. You don't want to spin out, do you? Oh, yeah. Hi, Mom!
Number 7, Keep Away. What's that? You don't want to work together with your opponents to win 10 free coins? Come on, where is your sense of adventure and teamwork? Although, I suppose if one of your opponents is close to buying a star or beating the coin star record, you could perform a bit of a sabotage as well. But seriously, back to the game. Honestly, Keep Away is another underrated gem of a minigame in my book. You have the option to work together, you have the option to be a troll and try to take all the glory for yourself, or you could just simply screw it up for fun. In some ways, there are practical applications for all strategies, and that's one of the reasons why I really like this game and its premise. Number 6, Balloon Burst. Oh god, I can feel it. That music. That very competitive music. It's Balloon Burst time! Balloon Burst is one of those games that just is a lot of fun to play no matter the scenario. I'm not sure if it's the intense adrenaline-pumping song or that drive to pop one of the most ugly Bowser balloons ever seen, but I can't help but have a good time with this game, even if I'm just pressing A and B over and over again. Number 5, Bombsketball. This is the only 2 vs 2 minigame that appears in either of my 2 minigame lists. It's not that the minigames are bad or even ridiculously average or mediocre. If anything, this game does a solid job of creating the 2 vs 2 games. This one just so happens to be the best. Your goal is to take the bomb and try to get it inside the basketball hoop on the other side of the court. Along the way, prepare for an epic battle of trying to steal the bomb away from your opponents and trying to get it back if you lose it. Once the coast is clear, though, it's up to the person who has the bomb to take a shot or maneuver themselves around the other players with their teammate to find a better opening. This game is honestly a lot of fun to play, and the only thing that kept this game from making an even higher ranking is the fact that it just ends way too quickly. After one basket, the game is over. Not a best of 3, 5, or even a first to 10 points. This is a game that I wish was extended in some fashion because it honestly could have been a much more epic and legendary battle. Plus, who doesn't like basketball? Number 4, Tipsy Tourney. Perhaps I'm a bit blinded by nostalgia again, but this was actually the first minigame I ever got to play in Mario Party. But even with that being said, Tipsy Tourney is a lot of fun and can be quite competitive under the right circumstances. You are on a tilting platform and you need to use a Koopa shell to slide over all of the panels until a picture is formed. The first one to completely uncover the picture is the winner. Using your best and quickest judgment, you must figure out the best way to uncover your picture while racing the other opponents to the very same goal. It's very simple, it won't take a lot of time, but never necessarily leaves a bad impression on you either. It's a very solid game. Number 3, Bowl Over. Most of the problems with the 1 vs 3 minigames in the worst list were that they were horribly stacked against one of the teams in some fashion. You could almost say the same thing about this game as well, but I feel like I could make the statement that not many people seem to mind when it comes to Bowl Over. The premise is silly, but enjoyable. The solo player gets to throw a bowling Koopa shell down a lane trying to knock over the other players who are bowling pins. The bowler only gets one shot at throwing the shell, and the only way they can legitimately fail is if they miss any of the pins or hit the railing. Hitting the other players is what you want to do, but even if you miss them, you at least have a chance to leave the game with some money in your pocket. As bowling pins, the team of 3 does have a really hard challenge in front of them. They can hop out of the way and potentially hop over the Koopa shell if they are lucky enough. The thing I like about this game is the fact that there are a multitude of different situations and scenarios that can happen depending on the game currently going on outside of the minigame itself. For instance, suppose the current leader of the game is a bowling pin. Instead of trying to aim for all the players, you could make it your prime target just to aim for that player. And if the other bowling pins are feeling jerkish, they could try to block that player from trying to get away and purposefully try to get them knocked over as well. This opens up a number of possibilities, and I really appreciate when a minigame can do that. Number 2, Buried Treasure. We're all collecting gold coins in Mario Party, and it wouldn't be gold coins and treasure chests without a good old-fashioned treasure hunt. And Buried Treasure is a game that definitely lives up to its name. A single gold chest is buried deep in the sand, and the 4 players are trying to find and unearth the treasure chest before any of their foes do. What results is a mad dash to find the treasure chest. This was another game that I played very early on the first time I played Mario Party, and was one of the games I really loved playing whenever it came up. It's so much fun to try and search for the treasure chest, and using the hints that you get in the sand as a means for directing yourself to the prize. It gets even more hectic in multiplayer mode when your actual opponents are also watching the screen and trying their best to win the prize as well. My only complaint with this game, and probably the only reason this isn't ranked number 1, is the small degree of luck that can happen here. Sometimes another player can get lucky enough to find the treasure chest pretty much immediately without any help with the signs or all the other players, which is really disappointing when that happens, but thankfully it's a very small chance of happening. And the number 1 best game in Mario Party 1, at least in my opinion, is Facelift. I had a hard time deciding between the top 2, but when it came down to the real nitty-gritty, Facelift is really the only game that doesn't have anything wrong with it, and is a game that is a blast to play and a welcome minigame to any play session. The goal is to, quite literally, give Bowser a facelift in a way that matches the sample that appears in the middle of the screen. You can stretch his mouth, his nose, his eyebrows, his cheeks, anything that looks capable of being stretched and pulled. It's up to you, you're the artist here. The player who manages to get the highest score will win the game, and you'd be surprised how often the game can come down to only a single % of difference. You really have to stretch your face in all the right ways if you want to win this game, and for a game that is as competitive and fun as this one, it's no surprise how it's the best game in Mario Party 1. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are my top 10 least favorite and most favorite minigames in Mario Party 1. If you have a different opinion or a different list of your own, feel free to post it in the video comments section below. I'd be interested to see what all other people think. Also, join me tomorrow when I'm taking a look at all the boards in Mario Party 1, and then next weekend when I move on to Mario Party 2, my personal favorite in the series. Later, folks.